Content is not fun if you're not making money. You're gonna burn out. So the only way to make it worth it for you is to actually get a reward. You don't need a big following. Literally, if you post a LinkedIn post and maybe 1,000 people see it, one guy might actually hit you up, and then you talk to him on the phone and you sell him. And AI is a game changer. The world is sleeping on this. Like if someone said, hey, I have a magical tool that anything you do in your life, you can do it 5 times faster. It only costs $20 a month. That's crazy.
Okay, guys, I have a little secret. For the past 11 months, I've come into every single episode of this show wearing this Stay Delusional t-shirt. And so that was intentional. I wanted something to wear on the show that I loved. However, after popular demand, we're opening it up. And so you can now go and get your very own Stay Delusional t-shirt. I just wanted to share with you the promo video that we created. It was really an act of love. It was all shot on my iPhone. And if you want to grab one of these t-shirts and support me, the mission, the show, everything, then you can also go to the link in the description and cop your own merch. But without further ado, let me know what you guys think.
Complete delusion. You gotta believe the delusion. Because it's only delusional until it works. So is it really delusional?
I think about that person that's sitting at home right now, and they don't know who you or I are. They don't know either of us. But what they do know is that every time they go on the internet, they see entrepreneurs that have had this success and like the impact of their personal brand. However, whenever they try to post online, whether it's on LinkedIn or YouTube, it feels like they're yelling into the void. Like it gets no engagement, it gets no traction, no sales. And there's like a frustration. They just feel stuck and kind of in their head on the whole thing. And so, Patrick, for that human being, what do you hope is the value to them of listening to the conversation that you and I are about to have?
Right. So starting things off, appreciate you having me on the show, first of all, right? And for the people listening, for us to give you the most value, since you're, listening to this podcast here, the main thing is really like, you have to understand that we're living in a creator economy where literally people are becoming somebody's out of nowhere. Some people have a 9-to-5 job and then they just start making content and they blow up. Some people have businesses where everything's like by referral and who they know. They start posting content online and suddenly the business is starting blowing up as well. And this is just the world we live in, right? And so my goal for you guys today is to show you how you can actually build a personal brand from scratch, from zero, even if you don't have a following, even if you've never made content before, even if you feel like you don't have time to even make content, you do. You just have to make the time for things that are important. And I want to show you how you can do this profitably, how you can do this in a way where you're not just, being a clown on social media, following trends, but actually providing real value so that you can attract people that are willing to pay you money for what you know inside your head, right? Which we'll kind of dive in deeper, right? So the main thing, how do you build a personal brand around the things you love, the things you're passionate about, and attract a tribe of people that resonate with your style, your way of doing things, so you can be your authentic self online rather than being fake and just trying to impress people. Does that make sense?
No, I think that's such a beautiful intention for the episode. And there was something that you said. You said, like people, we don't want to be like a clown. You don't want to be a clown on social media. And it's an interesting point because I think a lot of people feel that whenever they get online or start marketing themselves online, it's like they have to perform. Like it doesn't feel authentic. And so I'm curious because for what you do it in a very authentic way. And even the clients that you work with, it's very important that they kind of are able to integrate their personalities into the content that they do. I actually wanted to go to your story. And there was a post that you put on LinkedIn that I wanted to read and then get you to elaborate on. So you said, looking back, the times when everything fell apart, when I lost all my money, were the moments that forced me to pause, focus, and figure out what my next move would be. I remember when my 9 to 5 wasn't fulfilling anymore, so I took the leap and left to start something on my own. But soon after, I ran out of savings and was forced into a corner. That moment of desperation was when I realized I could teach my sales skills online, and that changed everything. And so during those dark times, staring at the ceiling in the middle of the night or reflecting on my life, I
Yeah.
found clarity. Those painful moments became the catalyst that pushed me to gather my strength and take action. And so there's literally so much there that we could go over. But I want to talk about that moment of clarity. Like, just take us all back for a second. That night or that moment, you're staring at the ceiling, and there's this kind of realization of like, wait, the things that just my story mixed with the things that I already have a skill set in, I could actually build a multi six-figure brand off doing that. Like, take us back to that, what led to that realization.
Okay. So for context, right? Basically, I had worked in tech sales for about a little bit less than 2 years. And then my goal was always to be an entrepreneur. It wasn't always to be an employee, right? But I needed to learn how to sell in order to start my own business, right? Because in business, either you're creating the product or service or you're selling. So I learned to sell. Once I learned to sell and I had enough savings, I wanted to live in Asia. And I had a friend living in Thailand at the time. So that's where I started. So I quit my job, moved to Thailand, reduced my expenses by a lot, and really just tried to figure it out, right? And for half a year, I lived basically in Thailand and Vietnam, trying out different ideas, nothing really sticking. Then, as I was running out of money, I was like, okay, like, I got to move back in with my parents because I'm literally going to run out at this rate, right? So I moved back into my parents. I also got sick of the digital nomad thing. Um, and I kept trying different ideas with different people. Like I tried, doing apps in the app store. I tried doing a matcha ice cream shop, like a physical location where I would go to events and sell matcha ice cream. Horrible business, by the way, terrible profit margins. And so basically, after I used up all my savings, I had about maybe like $200 in my bank account. I remember one month after this was after a year after quitting my job, right? And I kind of felt like a loser because I spent an entire year trying maybe 5 or 6 different models, taking all these courses and stuff, and nothing was really sticking. And it's either I go back and just get a job, which I could because I was pretty good at selling, or I give myself one more shot and figure it out. Basically, when I got put into a desperate situation, I was like, okay, like, what do I do? If I fail, I get a job. But if I want to make money this month, what would it be? And prior to getting to this point, I had taken a bunch of online courses on how to make online courses, ironically enough, right? And so I thought, okay, I kind of know how to make an online course. I understand it, but I've never really been successful at it. So what's something I can actually teach online that people would pay money for? And, back when I was at Oracle, I was actually teaching a lot of my peers and teaching them how to do cold emails and how to use LinkedIn, but like teaching entire teams, right? And so I was like, well, a lot of people asked me at Oracle to teach them. I didn't get paid extra. I just did it for fun because I enjoyed it. So I thought, why don't I just create a course and put it online and see what happens? So, at the time, like udemy.com was really popular. And I just literally made a course on how to lead generation machine. That's what it was called. How to generate leads of cold email with my background in tech sales, right? And the first month, I made $1,000. It ranked, it became like a top rated course in the first month. I was like, oh shoot, that's crazy. Then I made another course on sales, right? Once you generate a lead, you got to get them on the phone and sell, right? So it was called Sales Machine. And I taught people that. I just kept making all these courses on Udemy, and the amount of money I would make every month would keep going up, right? Because every course I made became, a bestseller essentially at that time. So once I made enough and I felt comfortable, I basically moved back to Vietnam and started a new life, and just went from there. It's beautiful, like going from employee to entrepreneur, and it's a nice stepping stone. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I think I think about that person listening at home that feels like stuck. And to so many of us, I think anyone that has kind of like entrepreneurial ambitions, the thing that kind of drives us is like that freedom, like that there's always that you'll kind of have that utopian vision of like one day there's going to be like a freedom over my time and money and my location. And it's interesting because I actually read about this from Seth Godin. We had him on the show a couple months back, and he
Yeah.
talks about the dip, which is like whenever you're in pursuit of something, you go through this stage, this like tricky stage in the middle on the way to your goal. And he calls it the dip, which is like it's just getting difficult. You've maybe tried the thing a few times, it's not working. And his thing is like if you can somehow maintain through the dip, you'll be able to reach the other side. And it feels like in your story, there was like this very clear moment of you kind of being in the dip, like that $200 in your bank account. I'm curious for you, like when you reflect on it with who you are now and where you're at now, what was that thing that when you were kind of like in the clutches of the dip, it kind of kept you moving forward? Like, what was the thing that made you think to yourself, no, I'm going to try one more thing. I'm going to try and sell this or market this. Like, what was that?
Mm. Yeah, that's a very interesting. And yeah, Seth Godin is definitely one of the people I've studied when I first started reading a bunch of books when I got out of college. So yeah, I'm very familiar with the dip. Um, for me, I think it's about identity. So thinking back on that night when I was looking at the ceiling and wondering like what I should do next, the reason why I didn't quit was because I didn't see myself as a quitter, right? It's like I don't want to see myself as a loser. It would be a shame if I spent all my savings and an entire year of my time to fail and go back with my tail between my legs to where I had started, right? That's just like a life failure, right? So I think that pain of, or I guess the avoidance of me failing myself was so strong that I was just willing to just try something or keep going, right? And I feel like even in my life, it's like I don't fail. I just keep going until I get it. That's just how I am, right? There is no fail. There's only you either keep going and it takes longer than you think, or you quit, right? And I don't quit. So, it's like there's no option. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. And even let's say in the case where I did run out of money, what would I do? I mean, I would tell you at that time, I was selling all my stuff, to buy more time. So I remember I had like a bike that I bought for like, 500, it was like a fixie bike, $500 like back in the day. And I was like, okay, I still have that. Let me sell that. Then I had an extra iPhone. That's another 400. So that's like a, $800 right there. It buys me enough time for like, a month or two. Right. So, it's like I was selling my old jeans, like old designer jeans. Like I bought it for like $200 back in the day. Then on eBay, I would sell it for like $90, right? But it's still like close to $100, right? So you add all these things together, like it can buy time. So, it's like I would do things like that. You just don't die, And I think, extending that lesson into content creation, a lot of people, they make content, it gets 20 views, and then like they give up. They, oh, nobody's watching, it doesn't work. Or I bought your coaching program and you told me to do this and it doesn't work. And I'm like, well, how many videos you make? 7. And I'm like, yeah, that's why. Like nobody, like barely anybody pops off at 7 videos, right? Like my first year of YouTube, I'll tell you this. I made a video every single week. So let's call it like 50 videos in a year. And total amount of views I got was about 45,000 for the entire channel. Subscribers was about 4,000 to 6,000. I forget exactly. And that's an entire year. Can you imagine 40 to 50,000 views for an entire year? Like you're barely like getting by, right? So, but now I have 300,000 subscribers. So if I gave up my first year, then I would have never got to the point I'm at now, right?
You know what? I want to get into the 3-step framework around how someone can build a profitable personal brand. Before we do though, I want to talk about just quickly the speed aspect of it. Because this is something that you said in one of your LinkedIn posts. You said, I'll start my business when I'm ready. I hear this excuse every day, but here's what most people don't realize. My client became an AI consultant in 8 weeks. Another built a lead gen agency in 30 days. And so I'm curious just for you to kind of talk about like what you've seen that like once people implement the framework that we're about to go over, how quickly and the speed at which people actually start seeing results.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
Okay, so if you're listening to this and in the process of building your personal brand, I'm going to share a little secret. One of the most important things you can do is own the relationship with your audience. And I learned this firsthand. Social media platforms are great for reach, but you don't control them. And so the best way to build a real connection is through email and SMS. And that's exactly what OmniSend helps you do. OmniSend is the sponsor of today's episode, and they're also a marketing platform that makes it easy to collect emails and phone numbers and then send automated email and SMS campaigns directly to your audience. So you can build trust and drive sales over time. And OmniSend is trusted by over 125,000 e-commerce brands, and it's for good reason. On average, every $1 spent with OmniSend delivers $68 back to you. And so I found that it's powerful without being clunky. And the cool thing is that you don't need to be a marketing expert to use it. Plus, if you have any questions, everyone gets 24/7 human support, no matter which plan you're on. And so if you want to start building an audience you actually own today, try OmniSend. Go to the link in my description, thank me later, and let's get back to the show. Okay, quick break. If you feel like your work life and documents are disorganized and all over the place, I want to tell you that I was in your position and I am going to share what worked for me. So 24 months ago, my workflow was scattered. I had documents in Google Drive, I had notes on my phone, I had random PDFs buried somewhere on my laptop, and I would waste so much time in my workday just trying to find where things were, and it was honestly frustrating. Fast forward to today, I use Notion as my digital work HQ. And so that means that I use it to plan the show every week, manage my team and their tasks, even build projects. Everything that we do starts with Notion. And with the release of Notion AI, it's moving my process to the next level. And so with Notion AI, you can ask it questions, you can get answers based on your actual documents. It can write first drafts, summarize info, even help you search across your workspace. And recently, I even started using AI meeting notes. And so it makes the process so simple. You just hit record and Notion AI automatically creates clean, shareable notes from your meetings. It captures key takeaways, action items, and saves everyone from awkward silences while you're typing. And so if you're ready to stop jumping between apps and actually move faster with your work, try it. Go to notion.com/Callum Johnson, all lowercase. So again, that's notion.com/Callum Johnson, and explore the most powerful AI tool for your work. Thank me later, and let's get back to the show.
Yeah, so it's actually pretty crazy. So basically, what he's talking about is I have this program called Founder X, right? And essentially what I do is I help people, and a lot of them are actually, they have a 9-to-5 job and they want to start making money online and start working for themselves, right? So in terms of like speed and how fast people can get results, like the fastest I've seen, and it happens to multiple people, it's like 2 weeks to get a high ticket client. And when I say high ticket, let's call it 2K to 5K, per client. Sometimes they have a monthly retainer, sometimes it's a coaching program, so it's like a one shot, but essentially for thousands of dollars, right? Now, I mean, how is it possible that people can make money so fast? Like for me, it took me a year before I could make $1,000 a month, right? So like, how is it possible that these guys with no experience, well, and they're, paying me for coaching, obviously, like what are they doing different? Like, what do they know that you don't know that allows them to make money? Right. And I think the reason why they're able to do it is because they tap into their strengths. They tap into because all of these guys, when they come to me, they come with problems. They say, oh, Patrick, I've been trying to become a coach for the last, 4 months and I'm struggling to get clients. And it really is just a couple tweaks in what they're doing in their messaging that will allow them to get clients instantly, because you don't need the biggest following to sign someone up. Like if you're a really good sales coach, for example, and you have 10 years of experience and you're like, I want to start coaching people as a full-time person, like you don't need a big following. Literally, if you post a LinkedIn post and maybe 1,000 people see it, one guy might actually hit you up. and then you talk to them on the phone and you sell them, right? Like it's literally like that, you know? So like think about like, let's say, you know, an accountant. How many followers do you think accountants have? Like nothing. How do they still get clients? Because they provide a good service, right? So I think people, I mean, like it's, everyone thinks like, oh, like you need to be a big creator, right? Because, you know, that's what you see online. But in reality, it's not. It's, you need to provide value, and then you need people to see that value, right? Which we can talk into the steps, but essentially that's the main thing. Provide some value, get a couple of people to know who you are and sell.
Yeah.
I mean, simple, right? Like, duh.
It's funny to I'll give people this context before we get into it. Because we had a conversation before this, and it was meant, I even told you before, I was like, it's going to be like a 20-minute conversation. We end up just talking for like over an hour.
Yeah, yeah.
And in it, you shared with me like this 3-step framework for how someone can build a profitable personal brand in 2025. So in kind of like this AI era that we're going into and beyond. And it was so like simple that when you shared it, I was like, okay, that's where we have to go. Like that's it. And so
Right.
before we get into it, talk to me about AI, because I think there's so many videos at the moment, even some of them on this channel, where people are talking about AI agents and like what's possible, and what you can build and businesses that you can build. But I thought that when we spoke, you had like kind of an interesting perspective of how you are actually using AI in kind of your frameworks, but more so actually even in your own businesses. Can you talk about that? Like what's the value of AI today?
Yeah. Okay. So for AI, it's going to be in everything we do, right? So think of it like how everyone uses social media. It's just part of everyday life. So when you're going on Twitter or YouTube, there are going to be a lot of people that say like, it's the AI gold rush. You need to start building apps and, you know, go in the app store, right? You know, vibe coding, which has its place. Now, for the majority of people, especially those who want to be content creators, you don't have to make your own app, right? You don't need to make a software. It's kind of a different skill than being a really good content creator. Instead, what I actually recommend is start small to understand how to use AI. And it's really as simple as using ChatGPT to speed up whatever it is that you're doing. So if you're trying to learn how to, you know, get your first 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, use ChatGPT as almost like a coach to analyze your videos, analyze your thumbnails, brainstorm ideas, write the scripts, and speed up the process. Now, where most people get it wrong is they think, oh, like I asked ChatGPT, they'll be like, write me a script on how to write a cold email, and they'll just come out with something, right? And they use the script and they get no views. Why? It's really because they're not using it properly. They're relying so much on AI to do the work that they forget to think. So they have to have creative inputs and put it into, like, feed it into ChatGPT, and then your output is going to be better, right? And we can get into examples of that. But the main thing is like use AI, whether it's ChatGPT, it doesn't matter what platform you use, almost like a calculator. You know, like when you do math, you use the calculator, just speeds up the process. That's what AI is. Now, think of it like a multiplier, right? So like if you get 0, let's say 1 times 3 is 3, right? So, but 0 times 3 is 0. So if your inputs are not good, AI will not save you. It just multiplies and improves what you have. But if what you have is not good, then it's like trying to cook a good meal with bad ingredients, you know?
You know, I think it's such a good point, and it's interesting even just the timing of when you and I are speaking, because I've recently come to the same conclusion, which is right now, ChatGPT and AI is like coaching me in different areas of my life. And to your point, I think even when we talk about like the speed at which someone can build a personal brand, it's like seeing ChatGPT and AI as almost like this ultimate accelerant. Like it's not going to build the thing for you today, but like it can really quickly accelerate the process of you actually getting to the outcome you want. Yeah. Can you just take us back for a second to, before we get into the framework, what was the moment for you when you kind of had like that light bulb moment of like, oh no, this is actually the right way that I should be using ChatGPT right now, is like the coaching aspect of it? Because I think for everyone, it's a bit of an adjustment actually learning the right way to use AI.
Okay, give me 60 seconds. So a couple of months ago, I was training for a half marathon. I thought hydration meant just drink water, right? I had no idea how important electrolytes, especially sodium, were for rehydrating your body. And so the night before my first half marathon, I tried Element, the sponsor of today's episode, for the first time. And after the race, I felt great. That one moment kicked off a full-on routine change in my life. Now it's the first thing that I do in my mornings. I used to wake up feeling super groggy, but now I feel alert and I feel energized right in the beginning of my day. And the cool thing is that Element isn't just your average sports drink. It has 0 sugar, no junk, just science-backed electrolytes. And so that's 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. And so it's trusted by Navy SEALs, pro athletes, and now me. And so at first, I wasn't even sure about the salty taste of it, but now I look forward to it every morning. And they have a ton of different flavors. I drink it after my workouts, and it's honestly been one of the easiest upgrades and integrations into my routine. And so if you want to get started with Element, use the link in my description. That's drinkelement.com/Callum Johnson. So to repeat that one more time, drinklmnt.com/Callum Johnson. And when you use that link, you will get a free sample pack of Element's most popular drink mix flavors with any purchase. So thank me later. Let's get back into the episode.
Yeah, I mean, coaching is probably one of the best use cases like right now in 2025 because it's just so simple, right? It doesn't require any knowledge of anything. So I actually started using ChatGPT as a coach when I actually got hurt in boxing. So basically I was sparring and then like I just like popped my shoulder. It like hurt really bad, right? And it wasn't because I got hit. It was because I hit the other guy and then I hurt myself. So my coach told me certain things. He said like, oh, this happened because XYZ, right? And I felt like it's probably partially right, but I think there's more to the story. So then I ran the video of me getting hurt because we recorded on the iPhone into ChatGPT, and I said, okay, like this is what happened. This is where it hurts. I don't know what's wrong. What do you think? And then it basically said like, number one, your posture is really not good. I was like, oh, that's interesting because that's something I'm actively working on. And so because my posture is not good, certain parts of my back are weak. And that part is actually responsible for retracting the arm after you punch. So I got hurt on the retraction. Now, like, how would I know that if I'm not an expert in boxing or, that's why I have a coach, right? But if my coach couldn't catch it, who will? So then I would be doing the wrong trainings, the wrong exercises, not addressing my back and only addressing my shoulder, when actually the problem is caused from the back. So once I had that moment, that click of like, wow, like I can literally run anything through ChatGPT, whether it's my YouTube videos or things in my personal life, then I really understood the use case. So nowadays it's like, if I want to learn about a subject, like sometimes I don't even need to read a book about it. I'll just talk to ChatGPT for like 4 hours about a specific subject, and it will tell me everything I need to know. And yeah, it's beautiful. Like you don't have to go on Google, you don't have to watch a million YouTube videos. You can just like get the answers like right there.
Yeah, you know what? Let's get into the framework, and I think people are going to start to see kind of how AI actually fits directly into the steps. So I want to start with step 1, create your offer. And this is something that I heard you say in a video. You said, if you're in the beginning stages, the first thing I actually recommend is that you find a business idea. So it's not even building a personal brand yet. It's understanding what you're going to sell. Can you talk about that? Like why? Because I think most of the time when people think about personal brand, they think content first. You said actually no, you want to start with your offer first. What makes you say that?
Yeah, so I'm coining this term called create to sell. Okay, so what is that exactly? It's content is not fun if you're not making money. You're gonna burn out. So the only way to make it worth it for you is to actually get a reward, right? And that's making money. So instead of saying like, oh, my niche is travel, so I'm going to make a bunch of travel videos and hopefully one day a sponsor is going to come and sponsor my channel. What if they never come? So instead, what you do is not rely on other people to, pay for advertising basically on your channel. You need to create your own offer because then you take all the profit, right? Like if someone's willing to pay you money for a sponsorship, they're probably making more money on you, right? You're basically just an expense, like, right? You're like an ad. But if you're selling it yourself, you can maximize your revenue. So an offer, basically, it's just answering two questions. And that is, what are you selling and who are you selling it to? This is extremely important because it will dictate what type of content you're going to make to attract this certain type of person. So the first thing is, okay, what are we selling? Are we selling a course, coaching, consulting, social media marketing services, right? You just need to be clear on what it is you want to sell. Do you want to be an agency? Do you want to just sell your expertise and what's in your head? Because that will influence the content. So let's say you're like, okay, I have experience in sales. I want to coach people in sales. That's what I did in the beginning. So we know what we're selling. We're selling probably online courses. It's really scalable. Coaching, one-on-one time with me. Okay, cool. Now, who are we selling it to? Who would be in the audience for this? And the two questions to figure it out is who's able and willing to spend money on this? Because, if you're charging high ticket, 2 to 5K, let's call it, and you're selling to people that just don't have the money, don't make the content for them. They're never going to be able to afford it, even if they want to. So you think about like, okay, like who would be willing to pay for coaching services? Probably people who have a job as a teacher and maybe they want to transition into sales. Maybe they have some money saved up and you're going to sell it to them. Or maybe they're a struggling sales rep who have a salary and they're willing to invest that salary into your coaching program. Or maybe it's a company that has 10 sales reps and they're willing to pay you for coaching services to train their whole team, right? But you have to be specific on who this who is. And once that's clear, you just put a price to it. Right. So if your price is like, let's say 3K for, a coaching offer, cool. So then you can simply say in one sentence, I'm a coach. I help people break into tech sales and I charge 3K. Simple, right? It's literally that simple. But where most people get it wrong is they're not really tapping into who they are to create their offer. They'll look at the market and be like, oh, that guy's selling this thing. I want to copy it. It doesn't work because you're not them. You don't have their experience, right? So why did I start with tech sales? Because I was a tech sales rep, right? So if I created an offer of like, I'm going to help you become an accountant, yeah, I could try it, but what's my credibility? Nothing. And so you got to like really tap in your past experiences and integrate it into the offer itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's so good. I want to go deeper here because I think one of the problems we just have as a society in general right now, specifically also as entrepreneurs, there's almost too many options. And so here's what I mean. Here, you said the first thing that you have to decide is like, what are you going to sell? I'm just going to give a few different types of offers that people theoretically could do. So, and there's 8 of them. You could do an online course, you could do online membership, affiliate marketing, consulting, either in a group or a one-to-one. You could build an agency. You could do in-person or virtual training or service. You could build a SaaS business, or you could build an e-commerce company. That is just 8 examples. There's like a litany of other ones that people are doing on the internet and seemingly successful with. And so I think people, and maybe the person watching at home, it's like, there's almost like, it's like the choice paradox. Like there's so many options that you end up in this cycle of either you just can't make a decision, or you start with one business model and then as soon as it gets difficult, you're actually like, okay, actually, let me change to the agency thing. And then let me go back to the coaching thing. And like, so I'm curious, when you're working with people, how do you help them kind of, or advise them to get clarity on, this is the one thing that I'm going to focus on and it's going to be my offer? Like, how does someone get to that point?
Okay. So I'll be real with you, right? So this is how the industry thinks, right? It's not just me, it's everybody. Everybody wants to make as much money as possible with doing the minimum amount of work, right? Like who wouldn't want that? What's the opposite of that? Do the maximum amount of work and make as little money as possible. Nobody wants that, right? So obviously it's what we all want, right? Now, then you start thinking, okay, what's the easiest way to do that? Like honestly, right? So if you look at, let's say, selling, like if you look at services, for example, Well, services can be cool, but it depends on what service you provide. If you're providing like marketing services, you're going to have to scale with a team. So that means you have to build like a literal agency. Do you want to do that? If yes, and you want to build that marketing machine, great. But if you're like, I don't really want to manage all those people, then it's not the business for you, like literally, right? So then it's like, okay, like what if you sold coaching and consulting services? What is that? You're just selling your time and selling your advice. That's like no work, right? You're literally just learning new stuff and teaching people things, and they're paying you a bunch of money to like learn it, right? So that's a really appealing to a lot of people, coaching and consulting, because you're selling your knowledge. You're not really doing work, right? It's like you're doing brain work, but it's not laborious, right? So that's why a lot of people gravitate towards that. Now, why do people do courses? It's because it's like the next evolution where instead of you going on a call to explain to somebody, they just watch a video. And courses are interesting because it's media, and media is one of those things where you can create it once and sell it forever, right? Like, you know, if you're watching like Toy Story, for example, they made it one time, they sell it forever, right? You buy it on Apple and Amazon, whatever. So a course is exactly the same thing. So if you look at the motto of a lot of the biggest creators, what are they really doing? They're creating a course, selling it to as many people as possible at the highest price point as possible that they can get away with, essentially. And then what they also do is they're like, okay, courses by itself is not that cool anymore, so let's do some group coaching. I'll come on once a week. I'll hire a couple people. They all come on once a week so that, you know, the people who buy the course get support, right? So right now, that's kind of the meta. Courses plus a group coaching where no matter how many students join the program, it's the same amount of work, right? They get the course, but they also get that personal touch. And because of that, you're able to charge like thousands of dollars for these programs, even though it's not that much work for the creator. So for me personally, like if you look at the creator economy, that's why you see, let's say a gym trainer who's super popular, he'll teach people how to grow on social media as a gym trainer and be like me, right? That's why you see people who, you know, maybe their niche is studying, and then they just transition to, here's how I got 1 million followers and how you can become a creator just like me. Why is it everyone teaching like basically the dream of becoming a creator? Because number one, it's like one of the fastest growing industries right now. Everybody wants to be a creator. And number two, they probably realize that there's more money to be made helping people become creators than there is doing the thing they were known for. And that's the truth. That's why a lot of these big creators, they transition into how to build a personal brand, how to like, you know, sell courses and stuff, because it's so profitable and it's like easier work, right? Versus like, hey, let me, you know, help you study, or, you know, let me keep training you, right? It's like, why not just teach people what they really want to know? And that's just kind of the truth, right? And like when you look at the other models like affiliate marketing and SaaS businesses, whatever, right? Everything works. That's the truth. Everything works. You just have to think about what works for you and how you want to live your life. And for a lot of people who love content creation, what they want to do, you know, after talking to so many people, what they truly want is this. They want to spend their days making content and print money and make money while they sleep. That's what they want to do. They don't want to deal with a sales team. They don't want to deal with like all the headaches of operational stuff. They don't want to deal with a bunch of clients. They just want to make content and print money. That's the actual truth, right? So, and you know, you can hire other people to outsource different things, but at the end of the day, the creator is the face of the brand. And the highest leverage also for the creator is to be the face. You know, if you look at all the big creators, you know, they outsource their sales, you know, like they outsource like everything, right? When you really get into the industry and you dig deep, they're not doing it by themselves. They just play a role, which is to be the public facing person. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what you actually said, what you just said is so key. And I even remember it in my story when I had this realization, because similar to your story, when I started out, my first company that I ever tried to start was like a clothing business, and it was like a dramatic failure. But systematically over the next 6-7 years, I probably tried every single like business model. I tried every single thing. And you start to realize, and the reason I tried every single thing is because I was looking to the outside world and like seeing what was working for other people and then trying to replicate it. And it never worked. The thing that worked was figuring out who I am and like what works specifically for me, and then going all in on that. And that's obviously this show and what it's become.
Yeah.
And there's something that you mention, which I love, which is ikigai. And you even said this, you said the best way to actually find your business idea is using the ikigai. What you love, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, and what you're actually good at. Can you just, because I'm sure for some people this is the first time they've even heard that term. Can you just explain what that means? What does ikigai mean?
Okay, so I'll give you the easy way to understand it, right? The thing is, if you do a business where you don't enjoy it, it's not fun. Then you just make money to make money, right? So it's basically a job, and you don't want to end, like, you became an entrepreneur to like enjoy your life, not to put yourself in a prison. So you need to find something that you enjoy and also makes money, and something you're actually good at, because if you're not good at it, who's going to pay you, right? So you just combine all these things together. Now, the key to actually making this work is you need to understand what industries and markets actually make money. So I would actually recommend looking at the money first, then integrating your interests. So the biggest industries that make money, or when it comes to selling information, at least, like coaching, consulting courses, is health, wealth, relationships, right? That's the key. People will pay a lot of money for these things. So all the gurus basically that teach you like how to make money, right? They're teaching you wealth, how to make money. So if you pay them $1,000, then you're expecting to learn something to make more than whatever you paid them. That's the idea. Relationships, like there are a lot of guys that will pay a lot of money, and girls too probably, that to fix that problem in their life, right? Like if you go to a club and you're buying bottles, what are you doing why are you doing it? To impress other people, for girls, right? Basically, at the end of the day, that's what it is. So people will pay money to impress the opposite sex. Now, health, it's like health is everything. Without health, like what's the point of money, right? So that's why these things, people will pay so much money for these industries. Now that you understand those industries, you need to figure out, like, with your unique skill set, how are you going to make money? So if you're, let's say, for me, I was a tech sales rep. My job is literally to make money, or accompany money by selling stuff. Other people want this job. They want to make money. So if I taught people that skill, then they're good. But now you have to combine it with, like, am I actually passionate about this? Well, for me, I am, because I'm passionate about inspiring other people. So that's an easy, like, coaching, consulting courses is an easy fit for me, because I enjoy helping other people become a better version of themselves, right? And I'm sure a lot of people out there can resonate with that, which is why they gravitate towards education, because it feels good when you teach someone something, they do the work and they get the result, and their life changes forever, right? That's beautiful. But you have to be honest with yourself, when you're finding these things. Like, don't say you're good at sales if you're not. A lot of people have egos and they're like, oh, I'm actually good at this. And they create content, put themselves out there, and nobody cares. And they get slapped in the face by life, pretty much. And that's when they give up, actually, when reality hits, right? And so that's why you got to, like, really be honest with yourself. Now, when it comes to creating offers and your ikigai and everything, yes, like, focus on the money. But then now you might be thinking, okay, like, how do you integrate your passions? The way I teach it is, you're not really going to find a specific model that really aligns with your passion directly. You have to add it as sauce, like what sauce is to a steak, right? So let's say for me, I'm teaching people how to build a personal brand and monetize. Okay, but it's not like when I was 10 years old, that was my passion, right? It's just an opportunity I stumbled upon and I thought it was interesting. So how do I put more me into it? It's by using the things that I'm actually interested in, and integrating into the content. So an example is, let's say I'm Asian, Asian American. I live in Asia. I'm very savvy to, like, what's going on in, like, the anime world or Asian culture, right? So, if something's popular in South Korea or Japan, I'm pretty aware of it. So for these examples, let's say, like, Labubu, for example, is really popular. Lisa from Blackpink promoted it. She basically used her personal brand to support a product, and now it's blowing up. I can use that example into my videos on how to build a personal brand, because it's something that actually connects with me, and I'm aware of it. And I bought my girlfriend a bunch of Labubus, and I'm like, I've been to the stores. I know what's up, right? So that's why it's unique. Whereas another person, if they grew up in, I don't know, like Texas or something, and they love motocross and shooting guns, I'm sure they would use another example that relates to their interest, right? And so, you have to use your hobbies and integrate it into your content, right? So, like, for me, what do I like? I like, Asian culture. I like anime. I like Muay Thai. I'm training with like a world, like a not world champion, but a national champion in Vietnam here, and I'm like really taking it serious. So it's like, for me, it's like, how do I take these Muay Thai lessons and integrate it into my content about building a personal brand? How do I use, the sick clips of me kicking and using my elbows into my B-roll and like, locking in, right? Like, for example, I could do it like that. So that's how you actually like make your content interesting in a way where nobody can copy you, because the only way they can copy you is literally live the same life as you. And nobody can do that unless they're just like faking it.
Okay, so it's almost like you want to, and I like the way that you kind of laid it out, is you want to start high level, which is like, where are the areas where there's interest? And like for most human beings, I think every human being, we have a fundamental core desire and craving to understand health, wealth, and relationships. Like for every person at some point in their life, there's been a moment where like that's been a strong desire for them, is to see some sort of improvement in those areas. And then once you find that and you kind of find your place within it, it's like then you can actually start integrating these personal interests and stories from your own life into the content, so it's actually one of one and differentiated and unique, and not just, I don't know, like another one of these influencers or business people that you see online. It's actually your own.
Yeah. And the key to making this work is you have to showcase your hobbies and interests that make money. So you have to be very strategic about it, right? So let's say Pokemon cards is very popular right now, right? People want to use it as an alternative investment. You see FaZe Clan doing Twitch streams with like, they just buy a bunch of packs and they just like keep opening it, right? And it gets views. So if I talk about Pokemon cards and I use it as an example, which I do, I know people are going to be positively receptive to it because Pokemon is cool right now, right? Now, if I talked about, like a not as popular trading card game like Digimon or Magic the Gathering, I'm going to look like a dork because it's not cool right now, right? So I'm not going to talk about those things. And I'm also not interested in those things, by the way. But you see, you strategically pick your topics. So yeah, it feels effortless, but you should actually know that like, if you're going to talk about your hobbies, it needs to make you look better. It needs to increase your status in the social world, right? And a lot of people are going to be like, oh no, that's being fake. Like, just be yourself. Like, being your true authentic self doesn't always pay the bills. It's like some people literally just don't care that you're into this weird thing. They just don't, or maybe it will make you look bad. Now, could you always spin it in a positive way? Yeah, but most people don't even have the experience to do that. Like, if you're starting out from zero, right? Like, if you're not talking about things that are popular, then how are you going to ride the trend? So let's say Muay Thai, for example, right? I know for a lot of people in my space, they all do boxing. Okay, that's like they try to like, oh, I'm tough, I'm a fighter, or whatever. They train in boxing. Nobody really trains in Muay Thai, in the personal brand, like info kind of space. So I will be one of the only people doing it. I live in Asia. I'm Asian, doing Muay Thai, using my elbows and kicks and knees. So when I put out sick videos like that out for my particular demographic, it's going to look really cool because I'm riding off the back of one championship who is, basically a competitor to UFC, and they're really pushing Muay Thai. Even the top UFC fighters like John Jones or Stylebender is Israel Adesanya, right? They use Muay Thai as well. So I see that trend, and I know people love the elbows, they love the spinning back kicks, they love the knees. So when I think about, okay, like if I'm going to make a video about daily life of entrepreneur living in Asia, I'm going to use clips of me doing the highlights, and like showing those pieces. And that's going to be different because you can't fake it. You have to like actually learn it. Yeah, you're not going to pretend to do like an elbow, right? So it's like you have to be strategic. And the best part is, I think this is where most people get it wrong with the hobbies. They do things to kind of distract themselves, to escape from reality. But what they should do is redefine and repick their hobbies that actually benefit their lives. So if you love going to the gym, well, obviously that's going to make you look good and more attractive. So like, that's a hobby you should pick up. If you like to fight, yeah, that's an attractive thing because people know that like they can't mess with you and you could defend people if you really needed to. But if you're like, oh, I'm really into, I don't know, like just any random hobby that, it just doesn't make you look good, then what's the point of doing it if it doesn't better your life, right? So yeah, I think that's the key. Like, you can redefine who you are actually.
Yeah. You know what I was thinking as you were talking, because I think it's such a good way to think about it, and it's simple, is like you almost take a piece of paper and you can just draw like two circles. And it's like, one of them is like, what is the world interested in? Like, where is, like, even when you're on YouTube or when you're on Instagram or any of these social platforms, what are the trends in like topics and content that you're seeing? Like, there's just a spike for them. Like, there's just a ton of interest. So, like, that's one circle. And then it's like another circle is your interests. Like, to your point, the things in your life, like things that you're doing that add value. And then in between those circles, there will be an overlap where there's like the world's interested in this thing, and it also intersects with like my personal interests. And that's the personal kind of, that's almost like the personal part of the personal brand. It's like that's the thing that you can focus on, and it will kind of, you'll be able to get engagement. It'll also be interesting for you to create, so you'll be able to do it for a long amount of time. It kind of feels like there's like a very intentional intersection there.
Yeah, it's like I think of it like it's not about like what you do sometimes, it's the way you do it. You know? Like it's the like for me, like sales when I started wasn't cool. So when I started learning sales, my goal was to somehow make it cool, you know, for myself. Right? Because like when I got a sales job, everyone was like, ooh, like why would you do sales? So I had to like convince myself in my head, no, like they're wrong. Sales is like the coolest occupation. Like you're literally like, you know, like you could persuade people to do anything, right? So it's just the way you do it. Like I can make accounting cool if I really wanted to, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Let's here's what I want to do quickly. I think it'll be fun for people because I think sometimes I think about what you said with the ikigai. You said it's what you love, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, and what you're actually good at. And one of the things you said with AI is like one of the most powerful applications of AI today is actually to be your coach and to like help you through and guide these reflections that you're having so that you can get to the right answer faster. And so I'm curious for you, have you kind of, is there almost a way that people can use AI and ChatGPT in order to figure out those kind of two central questions of like, first of all, their ikigai, and then also like their dream customer, like who's the person that I should be selling to?
Yeah. I mean,
Maybe we can
I can
just,
give
you
you
can share your screen and we can go through it.
yeah. Let me give you an example of this. All right. So sharing screen. I'm gonna share my entire screen. Okay. Let me see if that works. Okay. All right. You see my screen? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna give you an example of how to use your ikigai by using ChatGPT. It's so simple, right? Basically, you open your ChatGPT, you press this button right here, you start talking. You don't even have to type. So let's say, hey ChatGPT, you are a ikigai expert, and I need help figuring out my ikigai. I want to make money online, and so I want to align all these things together. So what I love, what I'm good at, what I'm passionate about, and what the world needs. So I love anime, I love gaming, I love Muay Thai, I love helping people, inspiring them, I love teaching. I'm good at teaching people. I'm good at recognizing trends. I'm good. I want to make content, but I'm not good at it. But I think I can be good at it. And I'm good at giving advice. Now, the world needs, I guess, they need smart people. Maybe they need good advice. Maybe I can figure out how to take my passions in, I don't know, anime and like collectibles and, you know, teach people something in that, or maybe help companies. I'm not sure. And what can I be paid for? I suppose I can get paid for consulting, selling an online course, coaching people, creating content, getting sponsors. I'm kind of feeling the idea of like teaching people something in collectibles because I know it's like a big alternative investment kind of thing. So based on these things that I'm giving you now, help me figure out my ikigai, give me the top 3 options, and also help me figure out like if I were to have clients, how much can I charge and could I charge high ticket? So now this is you know literally what I do. You know, I just talk to ChatGPT, use the voice feature, and the key is you have to prompt it, right? Like I'm giving it very specific details on who it is and what I actually need. So breaking it down like a strategist. Okay, go for it.
Just quickly, one thing like, because this was so impactful for me, I think one of the things is I want people to notice how like almost unpolished and off the top of your head that whole thing was. Like when you're speaking with ChatGPT, it's not like Google where you need to give it like this one line thing of what you're looking for. It's like you can actually, first of all, speaking into ChatGPT is like a game changer and like almost like a secret. Like it makes the process way faster. But then also just the way that you kind of reflected and kind of just brain dumped is literally what I've been doing like these last few weeks. It's like I'll just brain dump into ChatGPT and it's able to give you these great insights. So I just wanted to give people that.
Yeah, like literally just dump all the ideas. It will synthesize all the information for you. So as you can see here, it kind of tells me like, okay, like these are the things you love. So it'll essentially restate what you gave it. And then, so let's see what it came up with. So top 3 Ikigai business concept, the collectibles mentor. Okay. So anime, gaming, trend spotting, teaching, and investing. All right, well, how are we going to make money doing that? So you teach people how to invest in anime, gaming, and collectible assets, not just for nostalgia, but for alternative wealth, Pokemon cards, Magic the Gathering, figurines. So they're recommending like I can do a course, I can do a coaching, sponsorships, affiliate. So ideal avatar, 25 to 40 nostalgic nerds with disposable income. True. Because I know a lot of my friends, they collect Pokemon cards and they spend hundreds, even thousands of dollars on this stuff. Crypto bros. Yeah, that's true. I'm pretty deep in crypto, and you know, a lot of people that used to collect NFTs, they love collecting like Pokemon cards and like statues and stuff, preparing assets for the kids. Yeah, I can see that. So this is really interesting because it's true. Like if I started a YouTube channel specifically on like the things that you should buy that are going to go up in investments for alternative investable stuff, like there are people that will literally they will allocate 5% of their investment portfolio on fun stuff, whether it's paintings, bear bricks, anime figurines. Like it's a big industry. Like anime itself is like a multi-billion-dollar, like 50 bill industry plus and growing. And a lot of the money's made on merch, right? So that's like a real thing. Like you can dedicate your life to this for the rest of your life, and it's actually your hobby. And you might be thinking like, oh, like would people pay $2,000 for this? Yeah, they would, because they're making money if they make the right investments, right? If they allocate 5% of their portfolio. So like that's just like it's a realistic example of how do you actually find an ikigai. So what do you think about that so far before I go into others?
Yeah. I love this because this is literally what I'm experiencing right now. Like the way that I'm using ChatGPT, and it's very similar to what you just demonstrated. So I want to make sure that people can key in on it, which is you brain dump into it. That's like the first step. And you can do it with voice, so it's quicker. It will then give you a response. What I do personally, similar to what you just did, I'll like start skim reading because it gives you quite a lot. So I'll start skim reading through the response, and almost just like instinctually, there's certain things that like grab your attention. So obviously for us, it's given 3 options. As people are like reading through their options, there will be a certain thing that it just like, it speaks to you personally a bit more than all of the other 2 options. And that's usually when like I'll start to key in. And the thing that's great about the prompt that you gave is not only does it give you kind of like the offer and like even the desire and the pain point of the audience, it then gives you the client avatar, which is like, I remember we did an episode with Myron Golden, who's like super successful in sales. And he has this quote, which I think is so good. He says, if you obsess over people's problems and how to solve them, they will obsess over paying you. And so like I started to understand like the whole game of business is actually really just understanding that ideal customer avatar and like what are the specific problems that they have, and then how can you solve them? And if you can become the best or one of the best at that, and like understanding that and how to communicate it, you will succeed in your business. And so to the point you said earlier, it's like, it makes that process of you getting there, like how much time, like I just think to myself, I'm like, how much time in research and whatnot would it have taken if we did all of this independently, and we've just done it in I don't even know if it's 5 minutes. Like 2-3 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's dude, it's crazy. You know, like when I work with my clients, I literally just have them fill out a worksheet, and I'm like, all right, give me a sec. I'm gonna run it through AI. Then I run it through AI, get a couple examples, and I'll think about it to make sure like the idea makes sense for them. And then once I check all the boxes, I'm like, okay, like there's no guarantee of success, but this is the direction I think you should go based on everything I know about you and based on what I know about the market. And that's how people are able to get like the result in like 2 weeks, because most people, they just don't know, like they get so lost. They're like, I don't know what to do. Like I feel paralyzed. I have to talk to clients, and or like they'll be like, oh, I need to do interviews and talk to potential clients, but they never do any work, right? But then when you go through this process, it's like your chance of hitting is way higher, because what AI is able to do is it references how other people are already making money, and then you can pull from that, right? It's like you're not reinventing the wheel, right? Like the example we gave was about, you know, helping people invest into alternative investments. People have been doing that for years, but now it's just like understanding the supply and demand of it. There's not enough creators in that space. You can be that creator, right? And by having that confidence in like expert advice telling you which direction to go, it just makes that process so much easier. So it's like, especially when it comes to building a personal brand, it's not that it takes a long time to do. It takes a long time to get good enough for people to notice you. Because if you're really good off the bat and you knew how to do all the cameras and you're a great personality and you knew what you were talking about, you're blowing up your first like 3 months because you are actually good. So yeah, and AI is game changer. Like people like like the world is sleeping on this, you know, like they don't understand. Like if someone said, hey, I have a magical tool that anything you do in your life, you can do it 5 times faster. It only costs $20 a month. That's crazy. But that's what it really is, truthfully. Yeah.
And it's like for most people, even because what you said is exactly correct. For most people, like you can even just start with the free version of Chat GPT. Like you can literally get like, and they're not even sponsoring this episode. You know, like I really should have I should have open AI. It's like I should be getting something from this. But it's genuinely been my experience. And the thing that's really helped for me as well with kind of reflecting to Chat GPT, sometimes back to what I was saying about we have so many options today, it's like you can get in a paralysis of choosing between options. I find that it helps because as you keep using ChatGPT, especially if you use the paid version, because it has memory, it will actually start to kind of like learn you. And so it can help you actually make the decision. Like it can help you based on what it knows about you and like your goals, your vision, where you want to end up, like all of this context that it's learned over time through your brain dumps, it can help you make the decision of like, and I think that's a key part of it is, oh, this is the offer I'm going to go all in on. And then you actually stick to it for the next like 60, 90 days beyond. And so even when we get into the other steps in the framework, like that's a key part of it, is you actually stuck to the thing for a certain amount of time and gave it time to work. And I think so often like we pivot back to something else or we change midway through. It's like you're not giving it enough time that your business could ever succeed.
Yeah, it's crazy because even so I use it all the time to make content, right? Whether it's my YouTube scripts or LinkedIn posts, stuff like that. And the thing is, when you train ChatGPT the right way, it stops sounding like AI. So people don't understand like the intros that I do for my videos. A lot of times it's like me just brain dumping an idea, and then ChatGPT will like write it word for word, and that's the script for the first minute, word for word, literally. So like, and nobody can know. Nobody knows. They just think I'm like freestyling it or talking or whatever, but it's like literally ChatGPT like 90% of the way for the intros. And the intros are the most important in the YouTube video, right? So once it knows you, your offer, your ideal customer, their pain points, it becomes so much more powerful. Yeah, huge.
You know what? Let's. I want to do another quick experiment with ChatGPT, and maybe we can just like freestyle this together in live time for people, because I think so. Let's even say the alternative investment like idea. Like let's just say in this example scenario, that's the one that like as you're skimming through ChatGPT, where like that's the one that speaks to me. That's the one that I want to do. We choose that. That process. And I remember learning this from Alex Hormozy. He talks about like the Grand Slam offer,
Yeah, yeah,
which is
yeah.
like, how do you come up with like that one sentence, two sentence, like that irresistible offer that someone, that your dream customer would almost feel stupid saying no to? Like it's a no-brainer. And so I'm curious actually how ChatGPT could kind of help us get to that level of clarity of like, okay, I know this is the world that I want to operate in, and I know that this is my ikigai. How do I actually get the specific Grand Slam offer that like I can then like build everything else around?
Okay, let's get into that. So I'll share my screen again, and then what we're gonna
Yeah,
do
let's do it.
is let's get into right here. Okay, so I'm gonna go with number one, the collectibles mentor. Now let's this is how I would do it, a freestyle. Okay, so
Okay.
I like the ikigai number one, the collectibles mentor. Now what I need is to build a grand slam offer, and when I say grand slam offer, I mean an offer that really taps into the fears and uncertainties of my ideal customer, which you laid out, which is 25 to 40 years old, nostalgic nerds with a lot of disposable income who want to use this as alternative investments like Pokemon cards and things of that nature. So for the offer, I'm thinking of selling something 2 to 5K. Let's just stick with one for now. I want to do I'm thinking about doing coaching, maybe a course that comes with it, teaching them how to maybe invest in these collectibles. So top of my head, it's like I know that they need help, they need a lot of hand holding, and they don't want to think too much. In a way, I kind of feel like they want to trust me to like basically make their picks in a sense, but I want to also show them that how to think for themselves so they don't 100% rely on me. So help me figure out an offer that hits these pain points and something that is realistic and someone would actually pay 2 to 5K for. Also, search the entire internet to see if anyone else is selling an offer like this. Analyze their entire offer, their price points, what they're getting, whether it's a course, coaching, mentoring, group coaching, whatever the resources are, compile it all together. So take the top of the top 1% of anyone who is doing this kind of niche, put that offer together, combine it with like my personal interest in these anime gaming collectibles, and then let's create that grand slam offer. Now let's create 3 versions of this just in case the first one doesn't hit, and let's run it. All right, so that's that's pretty much yeah, go for
Two
it.
things that you do that I really love and I'm going to take even for myself. So one, and I was aware of this, but like the ability for ChatGPT to do like deep research on the internet and like just take from basically scouring the entire like net whatever information and like pull different sources, I think is super underrated. And then also the thing that you did right at the end, which is, and you did it with the first prompt as well, you always ask for 3 options. Like I've noticed that you always ask for 3 options. Can you, even before we get to this, like, can you talk through like why is it that in your prompts you tend to ask for multiple options at the end? What's the value of that?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, it won't get it on the first try usually. So I've learned that you need to just keep running it sometimes. It's kind of like A/B testing, right? Until you find like a vein or a pocket that sounds good. And then sometimes you A/B test the idea, right? So like, for example, if I said like, oh, like, option number 1 is really cool. In a realistic sense, I would probably have it create 3 more options similar to number 1 before I did the next step. Because like it brainstorms for you, like it literally thinks for you, right? And it doesn't know like if this is going to be good or option 2 or 3 is going to be good. Like it doesn't. It can just shoot, like it's like shooting a bunch of bullets and seeing which one hits. And so you have to curate. So right now, the way I think the best people use ChatGPT is like to curate ideas in a sense. It's kind of like when I used to use a lot of Midjourney. It's like you would have to just keep running different ideas and prompts until it hit something that felt really good, and you create 10 versions of that thing. It's like you have a good YouTube title and it slams and it like high click-through rate. Create 10 versions of that and let's A/B test it, see which one's the best. Right? Make sense?
Mm. And also one thing that's super important is like ChatGPT is almost like having like the ultimate brain, like the ultimate genius engine sitting next to you. And I think one of the things that you did well in your prompt as well is you actually kind of guided Chat GPT. Like you said the parts of its previous response that you liked. Like you said, like I like what you mentioned around like the master, like the collectibles investor, and like these parts of the customer avatar. Like you're actually guiding it so that it can give you a more like narrow, focused answer. I want to make sure that people get that
Yeah,
context.
yeah. Like the deeper you go, the less it sounds like AI, right? That's why like nobody goes that deep. They only ask it one thing, whatever it spits out, that's what they use. So when you go deeper, you get these like crazy answers that feel very human-like because the research, the context required is just so deep. So getting into this example, like here's an insight, right? There are no dominant high ticket offers for this kind of thing right now. That's interesting. So like if you did this, would you be the only one? And do you want to be the only one? Because if no one's doing it, that also could be a sign that maybe people aren't willing to invest that much money into that. Right. So it could be a pro and a con, but you have to do a little bit more deeper research. But you see from here, there's going to be like a lot of low ticket communities. And when I say low ticket, it just means like cheaper price points. Like maybe it's $14, $49 a month. Maybe that works better because maybe you go for volume versus high ticket. Right. So I'm not saying like high ticket is the end all be all. It's not. It's just easier to make money from like if you want to make 10K a month, it's easier to get like 5 clients at 2K each than it is to get a bunch at $100. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, like that's essentially what I would do. So when I look at this, I would have to make the decision of like, okay, like do I want to go low ticket or do I want to go higher ticket? Higher ticket might work, but I have to do more deeper research. Now you're appealing to investors, right? Like true investors who have a lot of liquid assets that you can liquid cash to buy stuff. Now, if you're going for the hobbyist, you're going to create a group. Maybe it's like a group on a platform and you're charging like, $20 a month, right? Both can work, but it just depends on who your audience is, right? So we haven't tapped into like the content side of things, but essentially you want to pick which model you want to do, and then you make the content so you can sell whatever it is that you picked. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious, at the end, does it give us it actually gives us the offer?
Yeah. So like, let's say we're going premium, right? For 5K, you get a 3-month high touch coaching, bi-weekly calls, private Slack, 5 authenticated pick starters. So like, I guess like there's almost like stock picks, support through text. Yeah. So this is actually, it's pretty legit in like, if you change the word from collectibles to like premium personal brand coaching, it would probably look like this. You know what I mean? Like you're literally just swapping out the subject. But I can see this working for people that are high net worth individuals that are willing to invest. Now, for the other ones, it's like lower price ticket. Yeah, it's just giving like different examples, right? So like 2K, 3K, 5K. So give me different pricing options.
Yeah. Okay, you know what? Awesome. Let's move on because I'm sure that even a lot of the people listening, they have that clarity of like what their offer is. It's now a game of like, okay, I understand what my offer is. I understand what I'm trying to sell. How do I get attention and people to care about buying this thing on the internet? And so I want to go to step 2, which is lead generation. And something that you said if you want to make money as fast as possible, there are only 2 things you need to focus on. Number 1 is how people will discover you. Can you talk about that? Like, for the person that feels completely stuck on like that discovery piece of it, they have the clarity on what their offer is. What is almost like step 1 of like getting people to actually care about what you're offering?
So let's make some assumptions to make it simple, right? Let's say you wanted to sell something high ticket, call it 2K to 5K. Now, if you're selling something at this price point, most likely if you're starting out, you have to get them on the phone, right? Because I'm sure if you communicated and like connect with them, on a Google Meet and like connect with them on a human level, you can really convince them to buy something, even if your following is not big, right? So the question truly is, how many meetings can you get per month? Because if you have 100 meetings a month, I'm pretty sure you're going to figure out how to close somebody. Because if they say no, you just ask them, okay, well, how come you don't want to buy? They will tell you. And then you say, okay, if I fix that, would you buy it? Yeah. Okay, then just fix it. Done. Then you sold them, right? But the problem most people have is they just don't get enough meetings. That's actually the game. So when people think about personal brand, they glamorize the idea of becoming a creator so much that they forget the business aspect of it. And the business aspect is, how do we get them into a system, a monetization system, to convert those attention into dollars, right? That's the whole point of a personal brand. If you think about, let's say, Mr. Beast, what is he really good at? Gathering attention by doing these crazy videos. How does he monetize? Feastables, he has a lunch brand, he has an agency, he has a VC fund, right? He has so many different ways to monetize. So the key here is attention. How do you get attention? You can sell people on a call, in the DMs, you can do it on a landing page. It doesn't matter how you do it, but you still need their attention. So there's only two ways to do it, really. The first is creating content, and that is building your personal brand, right? Whether it's YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, it doesn't matter which platform you choose. You just need to choose the one where your ideal customer hangs out. So if you're selling something B2B, like marketing services for software companies, clearly LinkedIn is going to be a really good place. But if you're selling, let's say, B2C, where you're helping people, become a digital nomad, right? Probably Instagram makes more sense because it's more lifestyle. It's more selling the dream. So that's how you kind of pick your platform. And essentially, once you pick a platform, and personally for me, YouTube, I think it's one of the best platforms, just because, like, if you can make it on YouTube, you can make it on any platform. It's the hardest one. It's deeper, it's long form, and you could do short form and repurpose onto the other platforms. So that's why I like YouTube the most. But once you pick a platform, really it's just creating content that agitates problems for your ideal customer. So this is why the offer is so important. You have to think, what would compel someone to buy your offer? What problems do they have? And you take those problems and you put it into your video, you make the problems even bigger, and then you kind of tease a solution. You give them part of the solution to get them to want to watch more videos. And that's essentially how you build a following. Now we could go deeper into that, but I'll let you kind of comment on it, and then you can steer the direction.
Yeah, no, I think that you're exactly correct. And I think that, and I remember, because like I said, we did this episode with Callaway a few weeks ago. And one of the things that he said is that with AI, and even the fact that AI is going to make it so easy to create content, is that a space that we already perceive as being incredibly saturated. Like, most people think about social media and making content, there's so many people doing it. That space is only going to get more saturated. So the key skill then becomes, if there's so many different messengers and like people talking, how do you get the people that you want to pay attention to you? And like, understanding that is going to be such a critical component. And so like, I think that's like the struggle for people, is like, okay, maybe I've even posted a few times on LinkedIn or Instagram. I've done a few YouTube videos. Even for you in your story, you were like, I was doing YouTube videos for a whole year. Mm-hmm. And it was still like this struggle to actually get a repeatable number of like volume of people to pay attention to your stuff. And ultimately you figured it out, because like you mentioned, you have over 300,000 subscribers on YouTube. But I'm curious, from your story, what is that moment when you kind of started to understand these are the key things that when it comes to content, it actually makes people pay attention and get value from what you're doing, and then like want to come back again and watch your next video? Like, can you just, from a creation standpoint, how do you get people to care?
Yeah. So I'm going to reference Seth Godin here. He has this book called The Purple Cow. And the concept is basically, if you're driving on the road and all the cows are, black and white, and then you just see a purple one, you're going to be like, wait, what? Like, what is that? Like, turn your head and maybe stop on the side of the road to see what's going on, right? So the key to win in a saturated world is that you have to be different. Now, a couple of things I want to talk about before I dive into that. Number one, don't believe that the entire market's saturated. It's just starting. Every single niche. You think that it's saturated. It's really not, because the amount of people spending money on creators is gonna double in the next couple of years. So like think about that. The entire market's going to double like really soon. So how can you say it's saturated when we're going to double and probably triple and quadruple and it's going to keep going up, right? So get that out of your head, because that is a limiting belief. Now, how do you actually stand out in the current market, right? Now, the thing is, the technique that I personally use is you look at the market, and you can use ChatGPT to help you out with this, but you look at the market and you see what everyone's doing. Everyone's copying each other, right? And you have to understand, it's not about the message, it's the messenger. So it's not about what you're saying, it's how you package it. And packaging is just your vibe, your aesthetic, your creative direction, the hooks, the titles, the thumbnails. These are the things that people, are going to care about. And then you just do something different, and sometimes the opposite, right? And you just do it in a unique way. So let's say for me, when I started in sales, like teaching people sales, what was my unique advantage? It was that majority of the people teaching sales at the time were a lot older. A lot of time they were Caucasian, and they're not relatable to a lot of the demographic of the world. So when I'm a younger Asian guy who understands tech sales and startup high velocity stuff, and it's not like I was a sales rep 20 years ago, it's like I just got out of it. It's fresh, it's new, it's different. And that's why a lot of younger people, they gravitated towards me, because if they're a young person that just graduated college and they're trying to get a job at Salesforce or Oracle or something like this, at the time, I was like one of the only few people you can go to. So I was different in the world of sales, but there were a lot of salespeople at the time. So you find a little pocket, right? So that was my advantage. I just used my personal, like who I was as an advantage. Now, here's an interesting thing. If let's say, somebody did the exact same sales content as me, but they were a female, they would attract a whole different audience, even if the entire creative direction and the scripts were exactly the same. It's because they're female and they will attract more females. Whereas my audience, it's like 70% male dominated. If a female said the same thing, it'll probably be 70% female dominated, right? So then they can lean on, the whole girl boss thing and that kind of, thing, right? Which is I can't touch because I'm not a girl. I cannot relate. So sometimes it's just being different in an industry, like makes a world of a difference, like if you look at, let's say, I think for me, I look at a lot of entertainment trends and brands, and I see what they're doing. I try to apply it to education. So let's say a company like 88 Rising, right? So they're basically like a music label, talent management, entertainment company, but they focus on Asian demographics and Asian artists, right? So they're basically just doing what other people have done in the US, but for Asians. And they're bigger in so they'll do tours in China and Taiwan and stuff like that, right? Same model, different demographic. So are they necessarily better than all the other media companies in America? Not necessarily, but they targeted a different demographic and they did it in a different way. And they, brought up different artists, right? Because they have that touch on the market. So it's like you would say, oh, like music is saturated. Not really. It's you just haven't found your angle, right? And that's just tapping into like the things that you're actually interested in, and you're even just like how you grew up, right? And so, like, I'll give you some examples. Let's say I had a client who he basically loves content creation, right? And he had a YouTube channel doing it for a long time, helping beginners use CapCut, how to use the Osmo Pocket 3, how to start being a creator. But it's not really getting much traction. But he's a high level senior person in the glass industry. So he has a full-time job, right? He does this content creation on the side. So I told him hey, if you love content creation, why don't you just create content for these glass companies who do these really nice staircases and stuff, like really high-end jobs? Because if they create content and they get one client, how much is it worth? He's like, oh, well, maybe like 50K for them. I'm like, bro, just help them make the content. They will pay you so much, because if you brought one client per month and it was 50K, how much do you think they would pay you? And then that was that aha moment. And literally 2 weeks later, he sold somebody for, a multi-$1,000, retainer, helping them edit videos. And he just coaches them on how to film it, and he will edit it for them. He could outsource that. And he's making an extra 3K a month on top of his VP job, right? So it's if he were to focus on how to be a creator, he's not competitive, because there's people like me and other people, a lot of really good creators he competes directly against. But if he's I'm going to help people become creators in the glass industry, because I've been working in this industry for 15 years, he doesn't need a big following. He's already making money. probably more money than most people do. Like most people don't even make $1,000 a month actually being a creator, right? So, and he did 3K in like, 2 weeks, right? And that's a retainer, so that's every month. So it's you have a couple of those, that's like additional like 10K plus per month. Yeah.
I it's one of the things that I learned, and it's a little bit of a secret, because even similar to your story, I was doing this show for nearly 2 years, and in that first 2 years of doing it, I've been doing it for just over 3 years now. That first 2 years, we got comparatively like hardly any views, like hardly any attention on my content. And all of a sudden, we had an episode about 18 months ago with Dantes Akram that it was like the first viral episode that we had, and then it started off this whole run. And during that run of like when things were going up, I realized, and you touched on it, which is relatability is one of like the most underrated things. And it's funny because I remember actually I listened to a podcast with J. Cole, and he even talked about it like in his music. He's like, the thing that I do the best is I share my story, but I do it in an incredibly relatable way. And if we think about what relatability means, it means that people can see themselves in you. And so even when you're talking about like, you had an ability to specifically resonate with younger people that are like in their 9 to 5, especially if they're like not Caucasian as well, because they're just different. And it's because that's the person that you were. And it's like relatability is so underrated. And so like that's the first thing. The second thing then goes, and it reminds me, when we did this episode a few weeks ago with Seth Godin, he went through his 5 steps of marketing. I'm saying this off the top of my head, so I'm gonna have to paraphrase it. But step 3 of that process is basically tell a story that resonates with your smallest viable market. And so it's like typically your smallest viable market is like an earlier version of who you are or were. And then the story piece is actually like the key, right? Because it's like, okay, the relatability is hugely important, but you need to be able to tell your story so that it actually hits those people that are like similar to you, that have that core relatability. And so I feel like you have something to say on that, but I also want to talk about storytelling, because I'm like, we can't give people what we've given them. Like, it's almost incomplete to the conversation not to share more around storytelling and how to tell great stories to your smallest viable market.
Yeah. Okay. This is a really interesting one for me. So I'm gonna do it in like this. This is pretty advanced, but I'm gonna make it very simple so you guys can like use this at home. So there's 2 techniques I'm gonna show you. Number 1 is using the hero's journey, and number 2 is creating content as a video sales letter. Okay. So what do these things mean? Hero's journey is just like if you watch any movie, like whether it's The Matrix. Let's use Matrix as an example. It's just the idea of like the guy lives in an ordinary world, life is whatever. Something happens. He realizes that he's living in the Matrix and he takes a red pill or blue pill. Depending on the choice, his life changes or goes back the same. And he goes on this whole journey to become the hero, right? Basically, any story you tell, you should probably use elements of that hero's journey, and I'll give examples in a sec. Now, the second thing I mentioned was you creating videos like a VSL. So this is something I really picked up on in the last year, where you don't want to be a how-to creator. So like, let's say you help people with sales or help people with accounting. You don't want to make every video about, how to sell, how to cold call. Like people only come for the tips. They don't come for you. So you have to think, okay, like how do you tell your personal story? And there are 3 beliefs you need someone to believe in order for them to buy. So every piece of content that I make on YouTube, it's not just educating somebody, it's instilling certain beliefs. It's almost like propaganda, but in a positive way, So what do people need to believe? They need to believe in me as a person, that I'm credible and I am who I say I am. They need to believe in my vehicle, that whatever it is I'm pushing, that thing works. So if it's personal branding, they need to believe like personal branding is the future for 2025. The third thing is they need to believe that they can do it too. That's why the relatability aspect is so important, because if they think, oh, like Patrick did that, but I can't do it. Well, why not? So then I use stories to counter that and kind of explain like, hey, I was just like you. And I go into the story. So that's how you instill these beliefs. So let's go into my personal story and how I do it. And it's not by accident. Like I sat down and I used ChatGPT to craft this story so that every time somebody goes on a call with me and my team, I already know what they know about me. Not because I'm psychic, it's because I planted these stories in certain parts of my funnel and my content, and I keep repeating it, and I keep like instilling these ideas in their head. So I already know how they think. So how do I do it? It's easy. So hero's journey combined with the beliefs, right? So I'll give you an example. I was just a regular employee working in Silicon Valley, doing good, making six figures, but I felt like I had golden handcuffs. I felt like I had potential to do so much more, but I was just stuck and I didn't really know which direction to go. So one day, I wasn't really feeling my job. So I quit, moved to Thailand, and basically lived off of my savings. I tried a bunch of ideas, failed every single one, moved back in with my parents, down to my last $200, not sure what to do next. That's that red pill, blue pill moment. So I could either go back and get a regular job, or I could take a chance on myself just one more time. And I thought about like what to do. I tried all these ideas, but the thing the epiphany that I had was, if I just taught people the skill that I had already known and the skill that people pay me money for, like theoretically, like if I made a course, they should buy, right? And so I did. And after I put out my first, course, I made 1,000 my first month, and 2,000 and 3,000. It just kept going up from there. So this story I've told in many different ways and in many parts of my content. And it's very relatable because, for my audience, a lot of them have 9-to-5s. And a lot of times, like, they might be doing pretty good in their 9-to-5s, but it feels like golden handcuffs. And they're ready to make the leap, right? And they have the money to invest in coaching and the knowledge to get to the other side. So I try to create that experience as much as possible where they really feel like, the thing I realized about coaching, and this goes beyond just like making money and just selling courses. When somebody invests money and time into whatever program you're selling, it's a big responsibility because they're saying, I trust you. My life is in your hands. Like literally, right? Like, of course, they have to do the work, but the strategy and direction that you're guiding them towards, like you can guide them to the promised land, or you can guide them to nothing, right? And so you have to take it very seriously because, some of these people, like, they really trust you in making it work. So, and because of that, if you kind of package your entire experience from the videos to booking a call to talking to one of the team members to onboarding, and you make that a true experience where they feel very excited, like they're going on this journey and like they're the main character of their life, it's just so much more stickier and so much more interesting for them, right? And so going back into how people can take this concept and use it for themselves, instead of just teaching things, make people believe in your core ideas, believe in you, your vehicle, and that they can do it too, and integrate the hero's journey as much as you can. And the easiest way to do it is to look for pains and make it relatable and show people how you overcame them, right? If there's anything to take away, if you only do that one thing, what's the problem? How come you couldn't do it? And then what's that big epiphany or idea that got you to the other side? And you just keep doing that in your videos, like it works. Yeah.
It's so good. Thing is, we could spend so long talking about storytelling and like the hero's journey and all of that. Like the rhythm even of like a great story is beautiful, right? Because and it's like I want people to see the different beats of like a great story, because it starts out of like, I'm working this sales job in tech and I'm earning six figures, and it's like, okay, everything's great, but I feel the golden handcuffs because like I always dreamed of actually having freedom over my time and money and all of these things. And so it's like everything's great, but there's a problem. And so I quit my job and I go to I live in Thailand and Vietnam for 6 months so that I could like all of this. And the key thing is like everything you're saying is true, but there's like a very strategic rhythm. And anyone who's great at storytelling, so if you go and watch, like people always talk about like Steve Jobs doing like the Stanford speech or like the keynotes for Apple, like there's a very strategic rhythm of how he tells stories and how he does the presentations so that it constantly keeps your attention. And it's the same with, like you mentioned, any great movie. You'll even start to, one of the weird things about storytelling, once you start to understand it, it's like you can't unsee it. Like you start seeing it everywhere. Like any great, even like a great song, like even like Taylor Swift, or like I mentioned, J. Cole, or like any of these artists, like Michael Jackson, like any of these artists you love, they're telling stories within the music, which is why it's like so sticky, which is why you play it again and again and you relate to it so hard, and you're like listening to it in the car, and it takes you back to certain moments. It's all storytelling. And the thing that you like, where my mind went when I was listening to you, we spoke about how AI and ChatGPT can be your coach. I think that would actually be like a great thing to show people, is like ChatGPT can actually almost coach you through. It can take your story, which is true, and almost coach you through your experiences and like how to actually get those beats right of what your story is. And like, if more people could just understand how to share their story in the right way, it would lead to such game-changing results in like how people respond to what content they're putting out, or their message or their brand. Like it would change things for people.
Yeah, no, 100%. Here's the thing about stories as I go ahead and set this up is for stories, it's like you have to understand you don't have to be a good storyteller. You just need to know the structure, right? So the one I use is called an arc plot structure. And I actually learned it at USC. So I, shout out to my Trojans, but University of Southern California. But I learned it from a director actually who did commercials. And he told me that every movie is so predictable because it follows an arc plot structure. And you can time the movie by the minute on what's going to happen in the movie because they follow it to the T, like majority of the movies that you see. And so when you're using formulas, the chance of you hitting is so much higher because the structure is not the problem. It's just what you fill it in. And so people need to understand like storytelling is a science. There's an art and a science, but it's literally a formula that you can copy, right? So let's say if you want to make a story and you're doing a video where you're trying to convince someone to, I don't know, quit their 9-to-5 job, right? Like I'm doing. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm making a YouTube video and I want to tell my story using the arc plot structure, hero's journey. And specifically, I want to share my story on how I had a tech sales job, wasn't happy with it. I had golden handcuffs, but I was making 6 figures, left it all, moved to Thailand, tried a bunch of ideas, failed 5 different ideas, used all my savings, went back to my parents' home, last $200, and then had an epiphany of I got to make online courses because I have skills in that. And instead of trying all these random models, why not do the thing that I'm actually good at and make content doing it? And then the end resolution of me doing that was first month made $1,000, second month made 2,000, and just kept going up from there. Then I moved to Vietnam permanently, and now I'm just living a good life, building my online business, helping people and inspire them, and set off to the sunset. So let's use that, and let's say we're gonna make a 20-minute YouTube video just telling my personal story, and my goal is to inspire people, to show them that it's possible, that they can do it too, to show that I'm credible and relatable. And also that, the key to making this work is you need to build a personal brand. So, at the end of it, I want people to, be really inspired so that they click the link in the description, go on my website, and then sign up for something. So yeah, that's literally like, not gonna lie, that's how I, brainstorm my YouTube videos sometimes. And like I'll have an idea and I'll literally just do that. And then what's gonna happen is, because I mentioned like the arc plot structure, hero's journey, it's gonna take that raw information and just like put it in bullet points. That's usually how it works. So let's see what it comes up with.
And it's crazy to think, right? Like literally millions of views, over 300,000 subscribers. Like it's that took like a few minutes to do. And it's like and I think what you said is perfect. It's like great storytelling is a mix of art and science. And it's like getting that right. And I think that's kind of where ChatGPT really helps, is like in getting the scientific part of it, the structure right. And through working with ChatGPT, you actually start to, because I do similar things, you start to learn, it's helping you improve at the skill of it. Like you start to learn how to actually improve as a storyteller.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, diving into the results, right? So 20 minutes, first 2 minutes is the ordinary world. So literally like each bullet point, like 1, 2, 3, it's a part of the arc plot structure that I was telling you about. So we start in the ordinary world, call to adventure, which is late night moment, scrolling on YouTube, seeing digital nomads, which is actually true. So it's giving me the bullet points, right? And I mean, yeah, that's it. Pretty much structured the entire video. And because for this video, if I ask it to like write a word for word script, it will. But because it's my personal story, I would rather just have these bullet points in front of me when I'm making the video and just like go through each one because it feels a lot more organic. And then from there, it's like a 20-minute videos, call to action, and that's it. Now, what I like about it is it gives B-roll ideas. So like, yeah, like these are all legitimate, like good ideas I can insert B-roll in. And I can fill them or just use my library of B-roll and just create that story. And what I'll actually do is I do have a library of B-roll of me like living in Asia and stuff like that. So my editors know to put certain B-rolls in certain spots. Like if I say like, I used to work in a textiles job, they know which specific picture to use of me in my cubicle and without me having to tell them, you know what I mean? So that's when like your editors have like good sync with you. Yeah, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Yeah. No, that's so good. And it's like once you kind of and it's what is again what we spoke about right in the beginning of like those circles of like what does the world care about, and then the other circle is like what do you care about, and within that intersection and also just understanding the pain points of your ideal customer is like there's so many content ideas within that. And then what we just shared around storytelling is like once you have those ideas that you can create content around, how do you actually make the content sticky and people care about it? It's storytelling. You know what? The final thing that I wanted to move on to quickly is monetization, which is step 3, how to turn attention into dollars. And this is something you said. You said if you want to make money as fast as possible, after discovery, the second thing you must think about is how to convert those eyeballs into dollars. And you know what? I want to get right to the heart of it, because you and I had a conversation last week and you shared something so interesting around sales, which is like the biggest thing that actually holds people back from selling once they're getting interest on their content. The biggest thing that holds people back from selling is actually like belief and mindset, more than even like any sort of tangible skill set. It's belief and mindset. What made you say that?
Yeah. So, I work with a lot of people who, are making their first sales online. And I've realized the ones that get results faster, it's really just believing that they're worth the price that they're asking. So I'll give an example of the guy, doing the editing for the glass industry, right? So, he was charging like $300 or something a month to edit people's videos, right? Which is like way, 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 way too cheap. And I told him like, why do you charge that? He's like, oh, like, it's just kind of like a hobby. Somebody asked me. So I was like, okay, why not? Right. And I'm like, okay, why don't you charge like $3,000? Like, let's just like 10x it. Right. He's like, well, that's a lot of money, So right away I can feel that his weakness was his limiting belief of he doesn't feel that his editing is worth $3,000 a month. So I said, no, bro, for these people, they're making so like I told him like, okay, like for that client that's paying you $300, like is it working for them? Are they getting leads? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, how much is the average deal size? And he told me like thousands of dollars, right? Like tens of thousands of dollars. And I'm like, come on, man, like 3,000 is nothing to these guys. You know how much they're making. You're in the industry, like they're literally making millions of dollars per year. So why would you charge 300? And then that was just like an aha moment for him where he was like, why am I charging $300? This doesn't make any sense, you know? So I'm like, all right, let's put it on paper. You're going to do this. You're going to charge $3,000. You're going to hit up anyone you know in the industry. You've been working in this industry for like 15 years, so you should know somebody. You're a VP. And someone's going to say yes. And literally he just hit up just not even like less than 10 people, okay? Probably less than 5, and one person bought it for 3K. So it's like, and he does make content, you know, it doesn't get that many views, but it doesn't need to get that many views because like he's kind of like, you know, like you use your advantages. Like no one in his industry is a creator anyway, so he's probably going to be the biggest one. So I told him like, look, if you keep it up, you get these clients, you're making money, you will probably be the biggest like creator in your glass industry, like legitimately, because the market is so untapped for you. And now that's his goal, to be the biggest one, right? And yeah, that's why it's like mindset. Like people don't believe they can be the most popular in their niche, right? Like for me, when I did the sales thing, my goal was to be the most popular person on YouTube in tech sales, and I did do it. My videos have the most views out of anyone. If you try to find how to get a tech sales job, it's going to be me popping up. So it's more realistic than you think, right? And I learned it myself when on Udemy, I was the #1 sales instructor at a time, you know? So it's like, how can you, like people don't think they could be number one in the world at something. You can, because it's like most people aren't trying, first of all. And most people don't even believe you can make money being a creator, right? Or they don't believe they can do it. So yeah, it's the belief and the confidence to come in and charge high prices. And once you're able to do that, it changes the game. And if you want to like mentally, like I know people are afraid, they're like, oh, I don't want to get rejected, right? So just know this. If they say, like, life is a game of just making unreasonable offers until somebody says yes. Like literally, you just charge a big number and then maybe you'll get no. And every time you get a no, you ask why. And then you handle the objection, right? Okay, like why not? Why don't you want to buy for like 10K? Oh, well, the price is too high. Okay, like what price are you looking for? Oh, well, if I can do it for, 5K, then maybe. Okay, so if you're saying like if I do it for 5K and we're give you these things, like you would definitely do it? Yeah. Okay, so like if I literally offer that to you right now, like could you get started today? Oh, well, yeah, I guess. Then you just close them, like literally, right? That's how conversations go. So but yeah, we can dive more into sales, but like that's the high level gist.
Yeah, that's so good. I never heard someone say that. That's so good. Which is like, business is a game of making unreasonable asks or unreasonable offers until someone says yes. And the reason I say it so good and I like even reflect on it in that way is belief is like a funny thing, right? Because in one way it's so simple to like flip the switch and then start doing the thing. But then in another way, if the belief and the confidence piece is missing, like if you just fundamentally don't feel worthy of charging a certain price, like that will keep holding you back. Like you will not be able to get past this certain level or point in your business if the belief is not there. Like you will keep hitting your head against that ceiling. And so it's like, it's weird because on the one hand, it's so easy or simple to fix it. But in the other hand, it's so difficult to actually like get through that belief layer. And so what I do for me personally, because we all go through this, we all have limiting beliefs in some arena. I don't care who you are. And the thing that I love about what you mentioned, you just made it simple, which is like, what if you stop thinking about it of like, oh, I don't think someone will buy from me for this amount of money. And it's just like, nah, I'm just going to keep making unreasonable offers until someone says yes. And every time they say no, I'm going to understand why they said no and like overcome that. And eventually you're going to get to the point that you succeed. And so it's almost like you overwhelm your thinking mind with just action, with just making the unreasonable offer, making the unreasonable ask, and like the action of doing that until you start to get the evidence. And that's the key I found personally to overcoming limiting beliefs, is like you need to build this stack. And this is what Alex Hormozy says, but you need to build this stack of undeniable evidence that you can do the thing. And so eventually, after you've sold 3 offers or like whatever, after you've sold your first offer and then 5 offers, then 10 offers at 3,000, Now you just believe that you're the sort of person that can sell a $3,000 offer on a 20-minute phone call. Like that's the process of how it's done.
Yeah. But let's make it tactical for the people starting from zero, right? Because, like if I'm selling Founder X, I've already helped so many people quit their 9 to 5. So I can just be like, yeah, this is the price. And if you can't do it, it's cool, right? But for people who don't have any social proof, no testimonials, no clients, like what are they supposed to do? How do they think about this? So how you overcome this obstacle is this. You are your first testimonial. That's the key. Because if you did not accomplish what you are selling, coaching or something to another person, well, first of all, you shouldn't even be selling it, right? Because like you literally can't get them the result. So you're doing you're not doing the right thing. But let's say, you're like you used to be fat and now you're fit, sexy, 6-pack abs, everything, like health dialed in. And a lot of people aspire for that. Okay. Let's say you're coaching someone how to be fit and you walk the talk, right? Like you've done the thing. So if you don't have any testimonials, you never helped anybody else, you just use yourself and just say like, hey, I used to be just like you, like eating pizzas and burgers and not going to the gym, but here's what I did. And I'm pretty sure I can do it for you. In fact, I'm very confident as long as you stick with me, we will get you whatever result that, you're promising, right? And it's really that confidence in how you speak that will convince the person to go to the other side. Because you'd be surprised, like a lot of my clients, they can sell high ticket offers. We're talking thousands of dollars per client with just a Google Doc, and a lot of them don't even have a Google Doc. They just make a promise over the phone and they agree to a price. Like no website, like literally nothing, just a LinkedIn profile or like a YouTube channel with like 25 subscribers and they're able to still close people. So it's really just your confidence level in the thing that you do, right? Now, if you suck at everything, you can't coach people, your content sucks. Yeah, don't expect people to buy, because it's just not good,
I want to go over this before we get out of here because one of the most popular videos on your channel, and I think it's relevant to what you just mentioned, over 500,000 people have watched it, maybe even know what I'm referring to, but it's called the eight dark psychology techniques to sell anything. And so I'm not going to go over all
Yeah.
8, but one of them, and the one that stood out to me and it was just interesting to me, you spoke about the pain and dream gap. And here's specifically what you said in the video. You said, the first thing that you must understand about the human mind is that if there's no pain, there's simply no sale. You then go on to say that you want to mix pain and pleasure together so that people will buy your stuff. And you're building a scenario in the customer's head where they are, where they want to go, the challenges that they have. And it's not that you're pitching them, you're positioning yourself as the solution to someone's pain. Can you, I know that you're someone, and we've even spoken about this, like you've read hundreds of books on sales, and then you've also just like done a ton of sales calls yourself. If someone just wanted to internalize and understand what you just mentioned, the pain and dream gap, what is the key? What is the heart of what they have to understand?
Yeah, I'll start with this. The video he's talking about, I have multiple videos on dark psychology tips on how to sell anything. Understand it's not really dark, right? I want to be clear on that. I just package it that way because I know it gets views. That's the truth. These are actually just normal sales techniques that anybody uses. I could have titled it, top 10 sales tips to close anything. It'd be the same topic, right? So that's actually a tip for you guys, content creators. You can take the same information, package it in like a different way. So for me, it was like, oh, that dark psychology kind of vibe, and the lights are like dim and everything. Same content and way more views, right? So yeah, but getting into the example that he was giving, right? So if someone were to use this particular technique to sell, it's one of the most powerful because it's a framework, right? So let's say you go on a call, and I'll just kind of like walk you through how the call like typically goes, right? And I'll be like, hey man, how's it going? So yeah, man, what's the problem? And then people just go into the problems of like, oh, I'm working a 9 to 5 job. I feel I can do more. Like my boss sucks. All this stuff, right? So you need to find the pains, because like if there's no pains, you're just a nice to have and nobody will buy. It needs to hurt, right? Like imagine if you broke your leg are you just going to leave it, or are you going to go to a doctor? If the doctor was like, yeah, to fix it, it's going to be really expensive. Like, you can either just leave it and permanently have it broken, or we can like fix it right now. You would pay for it to fix it. It doesn't really matter the cost because it hurts too much, right? So you want to do that in your sale. No matter what you're selling, I don't care if you think it's boring or whatever, accounting services, everybody has a pain. You just don't realize it yet. So the technique is, people will not give you their pains when you ask. So if I say, what's the problem, man? They're just going to go surface level. Oh yeah, I have a job, but it's pretty whatever. They're not really telling you a problem. Then you dive deeper. You ask questions to get to that emotional pain. So I'll be like, oh, okay. So, I mean, if it's like just okay, then why are you on the call? They're like, oh shoot. Like, well, yeah, I said it was okay, but like, I don't really like it. Oh, okay. So you don't like your job. Is that right? Right. Yeah, I don't like. Well, why don't you like your job? And then they open up, right? Okay. Well, I don't like it because I have to work so many hours, right? So it's you just keep asking these questions. Like when I'm on these sales calls, I'm talking 20% of the time, asking questions 80%, and I'm acting like a therapist. Like they're literally dumping the problems on me that they won't even tell their closest friends. That's how much they trust me. And so when someone trusts you enough in that way and they feel like you can help, whatever you pitch them later, it's going to be so much more potent. Whereas if I got on the call and I said like, hey, this is founder X, like, do you want to buy it? No one's going to buy. But if I said, hey man, like, so like, why do you want to start your own business? Like, it seems like you're pretty good where you're at. And then they really go into the true problems that they're thinking about that they don't tell anybody else. So that's first. What is the problem? Once I understand the problem, the natural next step is just to ask them, what do they want? It's that simple. It's like, okay, so I kind of see like you don't really like your job. I totally get that. I was in the same shoes as you. So like, if you were to build a personal brand, like how would you want it to look like? And then they go into like, oh man, I want to do what you're doing, man. Like I want to live in Asia too, make content, this kind of stuff, right? That's why like the personal brand part is important, because when you're selling coaching or like something B2C, so like to everyday regular people, they want to be like you. Your content is basically like they see themselves in you, and that's why they pay you money to learn from you, right? So if let's say they say, oh, I want to make content, I want freedom, I want to travel and stuff like that. So they create this dream in their head. Then you ask deeper, like similar to the pain side, ask them very deeply on the dream side. It's like, why do you really want that? Like, why is it important for you that you can work, anytime you want? Oh, well, like I actually have a kid on the way, and, I need to spend more time at home to, take care of the kid and all that kind of stuff. So see, this is an emotional thing. It's not about business anymore. Business is just a means to an end. But what do they really want? They want to be a good father or a good mother, right? So once I understand their true goal, and it's never just about the money is a means to an end for a goal. Then it's like, okay, we know where you're at. We know where you want to go. Like, what have you tried to get there? Oh man, like I tried making content, but like, it's not getting any traction. I don't really know what to do. I don't know anyone in my circle that creates content, so I don't even know who to ask. Right? So now I'm widening the gap. Right? We know what they want, like we know where they're at, where they want to go. And my job as the salesperson in this situation is to widen the gap as far as possible, because I need them to feel like they cannot do it by themselves. Some people cannot do it by themselves. Some people can, but they don't want to do it by themselves. Right? And that's why they pay money for whatever knowledge that you have. Because like if you can give them advice and they get the result in 1 week versus them spending a whole year, they will pay for the advice any time of the day, So widen the gap. Why can't you do it by yourself? What have you done? And why did it fail? And you get them to admit in their own words, I don't want to do it by myself. I can't do it by myself. I just need help. Right? If it's coming from them, you didn't sell them. They already knew what the problem was. You just brought it out. But see, this is like high level like persuasion, because the best salespeople, they can make you believe in ideas that you didn't even have in your head. Right? Now you can say, oh, is it manipulative? Not really, because at the end of the day, you're trying to help them become a better person, right? So that's the idea. You're planting ideas in their head and you're making them believe that they came up with the idea by themselves. Because they didn't, because if they knew the solution and the roadmap, they would have done it by themselves, but they didn't, right? And people love to buy, they don't like to be sold. That's why they have to feel like they came up with the idea themselves. Now, a bonus tip for you is once you widen the gap, you need to create urgency, right? So like in the example in the video I did, I drew a fire and I said like, okay, like if you do nothing, you burn and die. So I always ask people like, okay, like you're here, you want to go here, but you know, you feel like you can't do it by yourself. Well, you know, if you just stayed at your job and you didn't create content, you didn't build a personal brand, like, you know, would it really matter? I mean, your life seems pretty good to me. And then they'll be like, ah, oh, well, I know it sounds good on paper, but, and then they go into all these more problems, right? And so then I will ask questions like, okay, well, like if you were to take care of this, like when would you want to do it? They would say like, oh, maybe like 6 months from now. And then see, this is the thing with sales. Like most people would just be like, oh, okay, 6 months, I'll make a note of that. What you want to do is you shorten their cycle. And you want to make them realize that, like, I'll be like, okay, well, I'm a little confused, man. Like you said, this is a pretty big problem. You need to take care of your kid and you want to spend time at home. But if you wait 6 months, like, don't you think that's like too much time of waiting? Like, why don't you just get started now? Like that's why you're on the call, right? So I'm really challenging them. And then they like, it's logical. Like it makes sense. So they're going to be like, oh, you're actually right. Like, why am I delaying it so much? You know, I always have this problem, Patrick. I just can't pull the trigger, you know? So you see, then it's easier for me to sell whatever program I have because they have admitted that they have problems. They admitted they were like what they want to do, why they can't do it, and then why they need to do it now, not later. And then once I get all of that, right, which is the majority of the call, by the way, then I get into pitching. And I just say, I transition nicely and I say like, all right, I totally understand where you're coming from. I summarize everything they just told me to make them feel like, oh, Patrick hears me. And then I say, okay, I think I might be able to help. Do you mind if I share, you know, how the program works and what I think we can do for you? Yeah, I would love that, man. Like, please. And then I go into the pitch. And then the pitch is really just reverse engineering whatever problem they told me. And it makes it feel like, oh my God, this program was literally built for me. But the thing is, every time I get on a call, every person feels the same way. How is that possible? It's because I listened to their problems and made it sound like it's built for them, right? And it is built for them in a degree, right? We're helping them build a personal brand and monetize, right? Everyone has the same problem. But the way I do it makes it feel so personal, you know? Yeah, that's like if they said, I don't have enough time because I have a 9-to-5 job and I don't know if I can like write all these scripts by myself. I'd be like, oh, by the way, in this particular part of the course, we teach you how to write the script using AI. So, you know, like you told me before, like you don't have time, you have a 9-to-5 job. With this, like you can literally write the entire script in like 2 minutes, right? Which we've showed you in this podcast, right? So I will only talk about that particular part of the course if I know it solves a specific problem, right? So my course solves many problems, but I'll take the top 3 or top 5 and I'll only talk about those. And so that's how it's like, you know, like if they don't care about code email, I'm not talking about code email. If they don't care about Instagram, I'm not talking about Instagram. If they only care about YouTube, I'm going to focus on YouTube. You see? So that's how like every pitch is tailored. And that's the key to selling, man.
Man, you know, I just I love that we were able to have this conversation, and I'm sure like even for me listening to you like go through that whole thing, it's so seamless and almost like effortless of like even when you're like doing the role play of just speaking through it, it feels like easy. And I just from my own experience, I know that that comes through the reps, but like before you can even get to that point, it's like you have to understand the principles. And so like we set an intention right in the beginning of this episode, and I love it because I feel like we went through all of the principles that like if someone just listened to this and internalized it and then started to put the reps on top of it, it's like you will see a shift. And so I just love the fact that we were able to do that, and I'm appreciative of you being here for that, Patrick.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Before we get out of here, this is where I have to end it, is right in the beginning of this conversation, we spoke about that moment of you being in bed, you're looking at your ceiling, it's a dark night, you got $200 in your bank account, things aren't working. I want to contrast, and I want you to do it for a second, just contrast that moment in time with where you're at now, where like you're not working your 9 to 5, you're living in the location that you want to be in, you're working the times that you want, you've made multi six figures doing your own business. For you personally, for Patrick the human being, how does it feel to be in the moment that you're in, knowing where you started at and knowing some of those difficult times that you had?
Well, I'll even widen the gap a little bit more, actually. Before the whole entrepreneur thing with $200 in my bank account, I would say a more impactful starting point is when I was 17, and also another night I couldn't sleep. And that was when I realized I was a loser, like for real. So at the time, I wasn't like the greatest in school. Girls definitely did not like me. I probably got rejected by a girl during that time, which probably set it off. And I would, like I would just spend all my time playing Dota, which is like a computer game. So like Dota on, Warcraft 3 for those who are, played back then. And dude, like I literally put my value into a game. I mean, I didn't focus on my life. Wasn't take care of my body. I wasn't social. Like I was just a loser. And there's just one day I just couldn't take it anymore. I was like, this cannot be my life. Like I am going to change. I don't know where I'm going to start, but I have to do something because this is not livable. And wasn't like I was suicidal, but it was just so depressing. You know what I mean? And so, from that point on, around 17 years old, I just thought of 3 things, which is work on my mind, body, and soul, which is like start doing push-ups, start going for runs, start trying in school. And soul, I kind of connected it with like start being more social. Because I was very like, I used to be that quiet kid that everyone would be like, oh, he doesn't really talk. He just like hangs out there and he's just there, right? Like it's like almost like not existing, So let's take that Patrick, right? And we compare it to now. It's really interesting because how can I go from like the shyest person in the room to literally making a living off of talking and being like an expert in sales and persuading people when I was in fact the opposite, back in high school. And it was because the pain I experienced and endured during that time was so strong that it made me so motivated to learn the skill of communications, because that was my way out, right? Not even about making money, just to communicate with other people. That was my way out of basically depression. And so the reason why I teach sales to begin with, to start, is like, I'm doing it for the older version of me. Like literally, we're talking about the whole personal brand thing. That's where the motivation comes from. Like I would not understand every little step of the process on how to sell, being able to like do a role play instantly, top of my head, any example, sell anything, if I didn't have that obsession of wanting to be a better communicator. And that obsession only comes from pain, so that I was willing to invest time and energy and money into learning the skill set because that pain was so deep. So compare that to now, it's pretty sick, like, before I thought I would only go as far as being a dental assistant. I remember I had a class in high school where they asked us what we want to do for a living. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll be a dentist. And then I looked up how hard it is to be a dentist. And I was like, oh, that's too hard. Maybe I'll just be a dental assistant then. And I thought that was as far, or maybe a nurse, right? That's as far as I thought. And then as I stopped trying to be a loser and was like, I can like, and not saying those jobs are for losers, but it's like, there's more to life than just like going after what you think is attainable. Then I just started doing like what I truly want to do and like, and putting the effort into myself. So now it's like, bro, like it's crazy because I live in Asia, in Vietnam. This is the life I always wanted. It's like, I'm free. I can do what I want. I can work when I want. I get to do what I do. Like my job is literally to help people and change their lives. Like there's no, like how much, like that's so cool. Right. And I'm just getting started too. Like I'm still young. Like I still got decades to go. So it's like the impact that I can have. It's really rewarding. And I'll tell you this, like the main motivator for me is to inspire others. Like every decision I make in terms of like where I want to take my life and business, I always think about, am I inspiring other people to become the best version of themselves? Because that transformation was for me was so transformative and so impactful that if I can do something like that for another person and make money from that, like I'm living a great life, right? I have nothing to complain about, you know? So yeah, I mean, still in the beginning stages, but in terms of how I feel and how free I feel in my day to day, it feels good. You know, I'm still hungry for it. I still want to, you know, grow and everything, but like, I feel like I've definitely come a long way, and it's not about the money even. It's just the type of person I've become. It's, yeah, it's life changing, you know? Yeah.
You know what? You said it perfectly. You said I'm free, and
Yeah.
as soon as you said that, I was like, I feel like that's the perfect closing to this episode. So, Patrick Dang, I'm so grateful that you came on the show, man. It's been great.
Yeah, Galen, really appreciate you having me on. I'm sure we told some great stories, and for everyone listening, just know this: like, you can go as far as you want to go. Nobody's stopping you but yourself.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, man. That was so much fun.
Yeah. All right. Catch you later, man. Appreciate it.
Okay, so if you enjoyed this episode, you're going to absolutely love what we did with this one right here. Click here.